There are 3 phases of growth that every single e-commerce brand goes through. And as a performance marketer, a media buyer, an e-commerce operator, you need to understand exactly what phase you are in so that you can contextualize your entire performance marketing strategy, the KPIs that you hold yourselves to, as well as understanding what's about to happen in the future. When we grow another 30%, we're going to enter the next phase. And this is operationally the changes that we need to make to facilitate continued growth in the next phase. One of the biggest reasons why e-com brands don't continue to grow their EBITDA month on month is because they don't foresight the next phase that they're about to enter into, and they keep using all the strategies from phase 1 in phase 2, and it doesn't work. Or they use all the strategies in phase 2 and phase 3, it doesn't work. It'll just drive losses to the P&L. So having an understanding of what these 3 phases are, which one you're in, and how that applies to your operational needs, as well as the application of performance marketing in the context of new customer acquisition, is really, really important. So let's dive into it. These are the phases, really simply laid out. There's 3 phases here. I'm not sure if you can identify them without me pointing them out, but when you scale an e-com brand, this is what happens. You start spending on paid media and you are at your lowest degree of efficiency. And the reason for this is because there are machine learning algorithms built into every digital marketing campaign that require conversion turnover volume. As you get more volume of tracked conversions, the campaigns perform better because you have a larger data set that allows more accurate modeling. All right. Anytime you have small data sets, you'll always suffer from small sample size bias, which will make the campaigns not perform at optimal levels. Now, this is under the assumption that you are an immaculate media buyer with perfect marketing out of the gates. Generally speaking, there's going to be a human element here as well that's going to enable a function of improved return on ad spend. But if we just look at if you were working with the best performance marketer in the world, they started off, they knew exactly what they were doing, this would still occur. You still wouldn't be at maximum efficiency because you don't have conversion turnover data. Okay, that's phase 1. Then phase 2 of every e-commerce brand is here. It's where they've reached their maximum efficiency. They're continuing to scale spend. However, very, very soon, they will start to see an erosion in return on ad spend. And then that's phase 3, which is where they've reached a threshold of spend where they can no longer continue to maintain maximum efficiency, and they start to go into this erosion period. They start to decline in their overall return on ad spend. Now, what's the difference between these 3 models? Well, if you're an operator in phase number 1, you need to get an understanding for the fact that your P&L structure will change as you continue to increase marketing spend. So if you are first order profitable, you really need to be maximizing reinvestment rates into increasing marketing budgets within digital campaigns. Now, the huge caveat here is you need to be doing it correctly, because a lot of viewers watching this right now are going to completely misinterpret what I'm saying and think that if we double spend tomorrow, we will be more efficient and our MER will improve. Wrong. You need to be doubling budgets in the right campaigns, doing it the right way, and then yes, efficiency will double. But you need to be putting budget in the correct places. You can't just go and double budgets on search campaigns, for example, as a $10,000 a month business and expect your efficiency to double. It won't. Just like you can't just go and double budget allocation towards a retargeting campaign or an Advantage Plus campaign that's heavily retargeting and expect efficiency to double. It won't. Okay, you need to be allocating budget towards tactical creation of campaigns that are going after new customer acquisition and are operating correctly in alignment with the unit economics of your brand. That's really the core focus of any brand in this phase. And we've become incredibly good at this phase and identifying that. We've also become really good at phase 2 and phase 3. So phase 2 being once you've maxed out efficiency, you want to maintain it for as long as possible. Now, the mental trap that you get stuck in here, and this is what I see a lot of businesses end up doing, is that they never want to dip in efficiency, and so they never reach what they could truly achieve. Because they go, we've achieved a 6 or a 7 return on ad spend historically, and we've been at X profitability, so we never want to drop below that. The issue with that mindset is, number 1, as you start to reach the end of phase 2, you should be starting to achieve economies of scale in your cost of goods and other variable costs within the business. If you haven't, you really need to reassess your operations and start looking at decreasing them, starting to come to the table to your suppliers and going, hey, we have reached X threshold with you from day 1. We need reductions in cost of goods to reach the next phase of the business. If you can't start operating at lower MER or lower return numbers as you start to reach into this volume, there's something wrong with your P&L. And so you need to look at your profit and loss statement, you need to look at your unit economics, and you need to start to reassess what needs to change to enable this next stage of growth. However, you also need to not jump into phase 3 too quickly. You need to be maintaining that efficiency for as long as possible. And then as you eventually enter into phase 3, you want the unit economics of the brand set up in a way that's going to allow you to continue to operate at incremental profitability as you scale. This is the big caveat of phase 3 here. And this is where I believe most marketing agencies completely get phase 3 wrong. Most e-com operators completely get phase 3 wrong. And in fact, I think every business owner gets phase 3 wrong, which is, as you increase spend within phase 3, you are expecting a reduction in return on ad spend. However, people measure blended ROAS, or they measure blended targets. Everything is always blended, okay? Because that's the easiest way to conceptualize any kind of target, and it doesn't make things confusing. I'll give you an example. My business has a blended ROAS target of a 4.5, which is this line right here. Okay, because we know that if we're doing a 4.5, that's X amount of blended spend on our P&L, and so therefore we're profitable, it covers OPEX, etc. Cool. Issue here is that if you're operating at a 5 up here, and then you go and increase ad spend by $10,000, and now your blended ROAS drops to a 4.5, cool. In your books, you still hit the return on ad spend, everything's all good, and that spend was worth it. But it wasn't, because that $10,000 in extra spend generated an extra $5,000 in top line revenue. And so you just spent $10,000 more to generate $5,000 in revenue. Now, most operators will be able to identify something that extreme and be able to go, that doesn't look right, fix that. But when you start to get into the nuances of very, very close levels of negative profitability, people don't notice. And this is how most large businesses end up just crushing their bottom line P&L, is exactly this, which is that the marketing agency is looking at blended targets across platforms, and they're not doing incrementality testing. And so they're looking at this campaign and they're going, all right, they have a blended of a 4.5, so let's go and jack budgets by $10,000. They increase budgets by $10,000. We're still at a 4.5 in platform. Fantastic, we're all good. But no, you're not all good. You just drove an extra $20,000, which was a 2 blended ROAS, which actually isn't profitable if you take into consideration the variable costs. And so they're just driving losses to the P&L for the sake of revenue. And this is where they start chasing revenue rather than chasing profit contribution. And so the KPIs of these 3 different stages of growth are very, very different. At the start, you really want to be KPIing towards free cash flow reinvestment. So it's how much free cash flow are we making on a month-on-month basis? And of that proportion of cash flow, how much is going back into marketing increased spend and inventory purchasing? You want to be minimizing inventory purchasing and maximizing 30-day sell-through rates though, so that you can continue to maximize reinvestment into marketing. So that's really the core KPI of any starter brand. As you start to enter into phase 2, the core measure is incremental return on ad spend to maintain maximum efficiency. So it's how far can we push spend while not having any decrease in top line efficiency. And then phase number 3 is all about incrementality testing. It's about every single dollar that we layer onto the current budget. What are we getting for that individual dollar? And that starts to become very, very difficult for large brands. And that's why MMM exists in the first place, right? People are charging $20,000 a month for MMM modeling because it's incredibly operationally difficult to implement. But the crux of it really here for most brands that are in this phase, which is really in Australia, anyone doing more than $5 million, maybe $10 million, the core here is platform incrementality testing. So is Facebook or Google working? Well, we know a blend of it is working. People are going cross-platform. Let's do an individual platform test. Let's bump budgets by 50% on Facebook for a 30-day period, and then let's dump data into an incrementality testing model to measure the statistical correlation between the increase in revenue and new customer revenue. And then that's going to tell us whether Facebook is actually driving incremental profitability. And then we can do the same for Google, and we can do these structured tests while keeping variables relatively constant, measuring statistical relevancy, and that's how you continue to grow a brand and the top line profit in the third phase. And so then better yet, what you can start to do is you can roadmap brands across daily profitability. And so let me pull this into the screen here. This is our break-even analysis model that we have on all of the brands that we work with. And this was actually a startup brand. So in phase 1 that has come to us. And asked us to build out a roadmap of where we'd like to, or where we believe we can take the brand over the next 90 to 180 days. And we're going to be working with them on an operational level as well. And so immediately what we can identify is we can put in their current ROAS, their current spend, which is $2,800 a month for context, and they sit here. And so right now they are negative EBITDA $77 per day. So they're losing $77 per day on their online store. And this is an omni-channel business. So overall they are profitable, just online store they're not. So now how does this tie into the 3 phases of e-commerce business model that I just went through? If you're in phase 1, you can move across to the right and down. And so this is the big benefit of being in phase 1 of an e-com brand, is that you can spend more and become more efficient at the same time, because this y-axis is efficiency and the x-axis is spend volume. So you can become more efficient while spending more. Fantastic. And so this brand can start to pathway themselves through these bold cells, which is, as a 30-day target, we should get spend up to 3.7, and we expect efficiency to jump up to a 5.2, where now we're only losing $50 a day. And then the 60-day target is to get budgets up to 4.8 at a 6 blended MER, which is going to get us to profitable daily EBITDA. Now, this is really important to understand, because almost every agency you ever go to and work with is going to tell you that they can do this. Not true. An agency cannot take you to the right and down simultaneously unless you are in phase 1 of your business. And if you are in phase 1, you also have to be incredibly careful, because if the budget isn't being allocated into the correct campaigns that are going to drive increased efficiency, you will not see this. You will just end up seeing yourself trend in this direction, which is not where you want to be going. You don't want to be spending more and still losing the same amount every single day. Now, what if you're in phase 2? What if you're maximum efficiency now and you're just trying to increase spend? Well, if you're in that phase of the business, you should know that you can't move down anymore. This is now out of control. You can't move down. You can only move across to the right. And the value in an expert acquisition partner here is in they should be able to move you more cells to the right before you start falling upwards on the graph. So a really good acquisition partner should be able to pathway you like this, where a bad acquisition partner, or someone that doesn't really know what they're doing in the realm of performance marketing and e-commerce, will maybe get 1 across, maybe 2 across, and then they'll start lagging back. And so a bad partner will take you to here in 90 to 100 days, whereas a good partner will take you to here. 2 very different positions to be in. So that's phase 2. Phase 3 means that you can't go down and you can't maintain right positioning as budgets increase. So every time the budget increases, you are going to go in this direction. And so now, knowing that, it's about how do we minimize the drop upwards and try to shoot as much with, you could almost look at it as the smallest acute angle possible. Okay, an acute angle being going across here rather than an obtuse angle going over to here. And so you want to be targeting a slow drop off. And so once again, a really good marketing partner will have you only dropping off 1 cell at a time through each budget increase, but a poor performance marketing partner that doesn't know what they're doing will drop it multiple cells at a time. And this is really the core concept that most people don't really understand when you're scaling any single business, which is that this position right here of losing $77 a day is a much, much better position to be in than this position right here. And now you're going, well, both of these businesses are only losing $77 a day. So their EBITDA is the exact same. Why would this be a considerably worse business to be in than this one? Well, the reason being is that this is a $14K a month business and this is a $30K a month business. And now this obviously scales at size too. So if I imagine just 10x all these numbers and you can go, this is a 130K business and then this is a 260K business per month in revenue. This is such a riskier business to be in if you're operating at that kind of revenue level because of the increased operating expenses associated, as well as the increased inventory purchasing and inventory on hand. This is so unbelievably risky in comparison to this that any day of the week you would rather be a smaller business operating at the same negative cash flow than a larger business doing the same. And this also applies on the profit side as well. So people look at negative EBITDA, but you can also look at positive, right? So this is a much better business to be running than this one. Okay, now once again, you go, but why? It's a way smaller business, right? This business down here is doing 24K a month in rev, but this business up here is doing 40K a month in rev. I'd way rather be the business doing 40K a month, but you wouldn't. Because the EBITDA here on this business is like 20, 30%. This one is like 3%. And so operating at a business at 3% is such an unhealthy position to be in if there's any kind of change to market demand, if there's a drop off in your creatives, if there's an increase in your operational expenses, if there's an increase in your cost of goods sold, if the factory simply comes to you and say, hey, we're hiking prices by 3 to 4%, the business is gone. It's over. And so you would always rather be business A than business B. But most marketing partners, most performance marketers have no idea that this relationship even exists on the back end of the business model because they don't understand business. And so they will think, okay, well, we're billing by ad spend, or well, we're growing the top line revenue of the business by doing this, so let's make this exchange. And so most marketing partners will come in and take a business from here to here, thinking, oh, fantastic, we've got a case study. We can put this on our website. We took this brand from 24K revenue to 40K revenue. Yeah, and you also destroyed the brand. You destroyed the entire business because you took them from 20% EBITDA to 2%. And now they're in such an unbelievably risky position to continue scaling that this business really isn't lasting long unless they fix their P&L. And so all of this goes to show just the importance of understanding business, financial operations, as well as e-commerce analytics when you're scaling performance marketing of an e-commerce brand. If you're working with someone that doesn't know any of this, that doesn't know e-commerce analytics to a high level of detail and understand financial operations and how that ties performance marketing into the P&L, you need to reconsider. Thanks for watching that video. If you want to learn more about Blue Sense Digital, click the link in the description below. Reach out to us for a free growth evaluation video where we'll map out how you can achieve your financial outcome goals with your e-commerce brand over the next 6 to 12 months.